My friend,
What's
we're
the
back
deal,
again.
Pickles? Is everything kosher? Oh,
It's been a minute, man.
I
I
know.
think what, like 2 months probably?
It's probably been right at 2 months.
Just so much going on in life.
Yeah, I know, man. Jeez Louise. I mean,
So much.
where do you start? Jesus Christ.
We started when it was hot and now it's really cool today.
Yeah.
So it's a new season to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a new season for a lot of stuff, man. I mean, we're about to have a new president in January.
Yeah.
A Republican controlled Senate and
And now,
House now. Um,
are
there's a,
you nervous?
am I nervous? I don't think that you'll see liberals storm the Capitol. Like, I'm not that kind of nervous,
Okay.
but
Why? Because you don't know what to do it, or
I just think, I just don't think they will. I don't think, I don't think they would take it that far. I'm not nervous. I'm torn. I'll tell you why I'm torn.
okay. Mhm.
I'm torn because, and I think anyone who's listening to us, probably feels the same way, that there's nobody who agrees wholeheartedly with Democrats. There's nobody who wholeheartedly agrees with, but there's nobody who agrees with another person on the planet, 100%. So I'm torn because from a social aspect, um, I'm a Democrat, just through and through. I believe in pro-choice. I don't think any man, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, should have that much influence on what a woman is doing, with their body and that type of a thing. So I am a little torn on that. Um, I'm also,
I'm going to challenge you on that in a
uh,
second.
yeah, which is totally fine.
Okay.
And again, well, we'll get to when we get there. Also, probably on the Democratic side, I am, when you pan the crowd at the DNC, looks a whole lot different than when you pan the crowd at the RNC. And for me, um, when I look at the crowd and I see the representation of any type of individual that could be represented within our country, that's what my country looks like. And so on that standpoint, I kind of don't like that, because I feel like there's a lot of voice that is not heard on the other side. I think that government is more than just taxes and border patrol. You know what I mean? And so I feel a little torn on that. But on the flip side, you got a guy like RFK that's taking over. Was he taking over the Department of Health or
Yeah.
yeah? That's a huge deal, because you've got powers that be, these ancient dinosaur corporations and men and women of influence and affluence, that you have people serving more time in jail for possession of weed than these people will ever be held accountable for the millions of people. The health epidemic alone in our country, don't go anywhere else, just in our country alone, can be pinpointed right back to those fools. And I'm
Yeah.
extremely excited that there is some accountability. Hopefully, it's very hopeful that there's some accountability that's coming there. I'm also hopeful, with this Department of Efficiency that he's got, um, Elon and Vivek. I think
Yeah.
that's a really, really good thing. The talk about the potential of abolishing the IRS and the Federal Reserve Bank, that has had the country by the nuts since the
Oh,
1920s. I do like, so that's why I'm saying I'm torn. There's some things that I really, really like about what the possibilities are with a Republican in office, and then there's some social things that I dislike. So that's where I'm
yeah.
with it.
Okay. I would say you're more libertarian than Democrat.
If I had to,
To,
if I had to swing, if I had to identify with a party, yes. I just meant as far as Democrat or Republican on social issues, I
yeah.
lean more towards
Well,
Democrat.
I would say like me and you line up. Like but I would say I lean libertarian because of the social issues,
Mm-hmm.
but the physically conservative like standpoint on the government,
Mm-hmm.
I, it's that middle ground. It's in the
Yeah.
middle. It takes the little from each side because
Hmm.
it's in the center.
Yeah.
Center is saying, hey, I'm not a person, nor do I think anyone else should tell anyone what to do with their body or what they can and can't do
What they
in
should be
their
doing
life
recreationally, like.
in any capacity.
Yeah.
So that's where I lean. And what I've learned is that libertarian niche in the middle takes from both sides,
Hmm.
and then also has its own stance where you kind of leave that party and you kind of like, oh, I agree with a little bit of this and I agree a
Hmm.
little bit of that. Um, because there are some social things that the Democratic Party, I would say, if you're going to define them, it would be the more socialist side of things.
Hmm.
I want a fire department. I want a police department.
Hmm.
I want things that the society contributes to
Yeah.
that is beneficial for everyone,
Hmm.
as a collective.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, we line up 100%. I think we're just in the middle. I think
Yeah.
I don't like the party system.
No.
So I wouldn't label myself one or the other,
Hmm. For the sake of
um,
conversation,
but
that's it. Mhm.
I'm happy that it went this direction. Maybe we can get
Mhm.
some shit done
Yeah.
finally,
Yeah.
with all three branches of government, which kind of, I think, shocks a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that are, not happy in any way.
Well, and,
And
I'll say this too. We've had over the last 16 years, we've had 12 years of democratic rule. Now, you can argue the job of President Obama is a whole nother animal of himself. In my opinion, I think there's some very good things that he did. I think there was even economically, socially, when it came to the LGBT community. Elon Musk wouldn't even exist without a Barack Obama and his buyout plan, basically to lend him that money to do what he did and all of those things.
yeah,
So there's been 12 years of democratic rule. So this is what I will say: for everyone who has thought that the Republican Party had the potential to do things better, there's going to be no better showing in the next 4 years, or no better ability to try to
yeah,
prove that than now, with a Republican president, a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican majority Supreme Court. It- like like it's balls to the walls now. If there's
yeah,
any time to do anything, it's now.
yeah. And I'm curious, in historical, context, has this ever been the case?
Let me see. Have
I'm
we?
very, very, very curious. Has the Supreme Court, the presidency, the House, and the Senate ever been leaned in one direction or the other?
Let's see. I'm pulling it up
That
right
is,
now. The last
that
time,
would be historic.
the last time the Republican Party controlled the House and the Senate was 2017 to 2019. I haven't found
But
anything as to whether we've had a president, House, and a Senate.
do say this, say, in history, has there been a leaning conservative Supreme Court, conservative president, conservative House, conservative, just say conservative, probably not Republican, because there's been other parties out there, like the Whig Party and the Small Penis Party, the 1920s.
It's 2017, so it was when he was president the last time. Believe it or not,
Okay,
which is an interesting fact.
that is
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yep, sure is. 2017 to 2019, we had a Republican House, Senate, and president.
Interesting, but
Yeah.
not Supreme Court.
Supreme Court was probably locked, and by 2019, I think he had
Yeah,
already made it to his majority because he put two in while he was
right.
in there. Yeah. So
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
I think he had maybe a year to where it was all like what it is right now. So I mean, again,
Well,
that's
I think it was 51, so they couldn't, they didn't have what's called a major majority. There was one branch that was like almost 50-50. I think it was one, but you need more
it's kind of like what
than,
the Senate's been for the Democrats. The vice president's been that tiebreaker of a
yeah,
of a of a, of a
tiebreaker.
vote. Hmm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, we I think this is what I do know. I do believe that we're going to see dramatic changes,
Yeah.
whether good or bad. I do believe we're going to see sweeping changes across the country, and for let's not even get deep. Let's just start from a very surface level. Donald Trump has something to prove.
Right.
Period. He's got something to prove. This is his last time in office as well. I think there's a lot of different factors that are coming into play, and I think just like he has promised on day one to start making changes and whatever. I think he's that type of a dude to where he wants to get it done and get it done quick. And so
Yeah.
I think we'll see rather swiftly the impact of another
Right.
Donald Trump president.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a whole year before we see whether positive or negative on that. I think we'll see the results rather quickly.
Yeah. I have a business idea. If one of his claims during his run for president comes true,
Mm-hmm.
you want to hear it?
Yeah,
Okay. So, uh, no tax on tips.
1,000%. Which is the same
Okay.
thing Harris was saying as
So
well.
let's open a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
and a nightclub where everything's free and you just tip. So everything's free, you just tip.
Just tip.
But the tip, just a tip,
Just a tip.
just a tip.
Just slide it on in there. Just ever so.
But on the computer, right on the reader, the card reader, you don't start at 20%. You start at 100%, and it's all built into the back end
Mm-hmm.
what it would have cost, but you get a discount on the product, and now your tip is 100%, 120, and up from there.
Well, we have something similar to that. Not to
So
that.
legally, everything's a tip.
Legally, everything's a tip. Yeah, yeah.
So you're not taxed as a corporation then.
That's really good. That's almost like. Have you seen
I'm
whenever
just fucking around, but
No, it's a good. No, it's a
like,
good
how do
thing.
you capitalize on it? How do you
It's a
capitalize on
it's a good thing. Have you ever gone? You see when you go to the gas station and they have a different price for cash as they do for
it?
card
Yeah,
and whatever. It's almost essentially the same thing. We're going to pass that savings on to you and reward you for giving us cash, or in this case
right,
tips.
right.
And in return, it's a
It,
win-win situation
so
there.
you know that let's say the corporate tax is, oh, he may lower it to 15% is what he wants to. Let's say it's 15%.
Yeah.
So now you have incentive to put it in 15% less if you just tip everything that you were going to pay plus 20%
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
that tip.
Mm-hmm.
Now everything's a tip.
Yeah.
And you pull those tips together and the company gets a tip, the employees get a tip. Now you're tax free.
Listen.
I mean, I'm just I'm looking at it from the lens of like, how would people, and that's arbitrary, right? That's an insane concept, but somebody's gonna find a way to figure this out, to how to make more money and not pay. I think in the 1920s, there was a 90% federal tax.
There sure was.
And do you know the percentage of people? I think you had to make $200,000.
Yeah.
I don't know the number, but I've looked it up before. I can't remember, but it was a fraction of the people that actually made 200,000 that actually pay taxes at that rate.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out ways to lower their tax bracket in every way they could, taking trips on the business,
Yep.
doing things, dropping that income amount down below 200,000, so they wouldn't have to pay the top tier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it was literally in the single digits of numbers of people that actually made over $200,000 that actually paid the 90%
Mm-hmm.
tax.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did, then you're an idiot.
Right.
You didn't have a good CPA and you didn't understand business. So rightfully so, you had to pay the 90%.
Mm-hmm.
But I would agree with you. You didn't come out and say this, but I think it's secular. Secular? I think it's a word. It goes back and forth through cycles.
Cyclical. There it is.
Cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
Cyclical.
Yep.
I will not edit that out.
Oh, you should. You shouldn't.
Cyclical. So in cycles about every 20 years, right? You can look at history and see that the different parties come in power. And I think it's just like life. You don't know the high until you have the low.
Yeah.
You don't know the good times until you have the bad times.
Yeah.
So you have the yin and yang. You have to have it in your life. And I think, I think it's more like a rule of the universe. It's going to fluctuate that way all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because your life does it. My life does it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on a high and then you're on a low.
Then you're on a damn
Then you're
low.
back on a high. I mean, it's constant.
Yeah.
So I don't think politics are any different, right?
Yeah.
I think you go through these cycles. Not to say the Republicans are the high and the Democrats are low. I'm just saying you give it a chance to say, hey, okay, implement the things you want to do. Well, that's not working. And it shifts back and forth, and
It,
it has done that. And I think that that part of it is going to uh, give us longevity as a country when it comes to why we are successful in our republic.
yeah.
Because I, I've had this conversation with people. Everyone's like, "Oh, the downfall of America. Like we're going to crash just like the Romans did,
Mm-hmm.
because they
Mm-hmm.
were they were a democratic nation. We're not a democratic nation. Number one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're a republic.
Republic.
Okay.
Yep.
Number two, I think the three branches of government, they didn't have that. The Romans didn't have three branches. Um, they just had a Senate and the emperor. They didn't have a Supreme Court. They didn't have, why the hell balloons popping up? I don't know. Um,
It's the gestures thing that they have in there.
Suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the balance of power that we have and the amount of time that it takes something to actually be implemented in our country, whether it be a law, um, or an executive order, or anything that kind of comes down to the people. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we have enough time. We have enough time to acclimate ourselves to it, that we figure out how to live within that structure. Uh, Companies will pop up to help you figure out how to get around it, or how does it benefit you? Because in every instance, there's always a winner and a loser,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So whatever you put in place, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And it just shifts back and forth, back and forth. So over time, we just acclimate ourselves much better than other nations, I think, that don't have that ability nor the luxury to be able to branch it over multiple branches of government. That takes a while to get to us, because then
Yeah.
we know super early how it's kind of flowing through the system, and it's going to take a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
to actually
Mm-hmm.
be implemented. you know
Mm-hmm.
and then who's going to enforce it? Are the states going to enforce it? Maybe, maybe not.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
you
Yeah.
know
No, I agree. I think something else that's very interesting while we're just on the topic of like the fiscal stuff and whatnot. Donald Trump has proposed to either lower the income tax rate or completely annihilate the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Now, the last time a tariff backed system was really purported was back in the 1890s when William McKinley was president.
yeah.
He
Yes.
he he called income tax a sin.
Yeah.
And ironically, he was shot and killed. uh, and so a lot of people are thinking that by him imposing these tariffs, obviously that cost is going to be pushed off in some way, shape, or form
Yeah.
to the consumer. What I think people are kind of missing when it comes to that, though, is I think it may be a little rocky for a second because we're so unbalanced on the side of just everything.
Consumerism.
Yeah, and everything is being sent overseas. Everything is coming from China or from Bangladesh or from this place or from that place or whatever. You've got the Chinese are building factories in the U.S. and buying up land and doing that type of thing and whatnot. And again, it's not. This is not a nationalist type of a comment, but what I will say is that I feel like it's going to get rocky for a second because yes, that cost is going to get pushed on to the consumer. But over time, what I believe it's going to ultimately do is bring back independence and dominance over our own money and our own economy as it pertains to us as a
Yep.
country. And I think that's worth the small amount of turbulence that we're going, because we're going to hit it, because he's going to push it hard. And I think the small amount of turbulence is really a small price to pay in for what I believe is ultimately going to be an incredible thing for all Americans as a whole.
So let's take this. Let's take
Yeah.
when you think about a tariff, you think people don't really understand what that means.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, it's imposed on importing, right? So kind of like Texas. Texas is the best state for poor people. Number one, we don't have state taxes.
Yeah.
You have a percentage on property tax, right? That percentage is based off of the value of your home.
Yeah.
So the more money you make, the bigger your home, the higher the value, the more you pay. The smaller your home, the less valuable it is, the less you pay. Location. Do you want to be close to the city? Are you in a position in that city that you can get to a lot of great things? So it depends on your city limits. So there are people that live in Texas that don't pay a state tax and pay $600, $700, $1,000 a year in a federal in a state property tax. Okay. Now within that, in Texas, when you go to the grocery store, if you stay on the outside of the grocery store, meaning the deli, the fruits and vegetables, the bakery, and pretty much any product in the frozen section that it is from Texas, zero tax.
Yeah.
No taxes.
Yeah.
You only get taxed on
It's
what's called the gluttony tax.
it's the same here.
So Louisiana is different. Louisiana, you're
Yeah.
getting taxed on water,
Yeah.
milk, eggs. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So to live in Texas, you can live in an apartment, pay no state tax, pay no property tax, and eat healthy and pay no food tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
No,
only the only tax you're going to pay is when you go to a restaurant and you're getting the convenience of the environment and consuming that food in their location, and then you will pay that tax, right?
Yeah.
And then you pay an income tax to the federal government. But it's kind of the same concept. If you get rid of the federal tax, you do a tariff, it will only hurt you if you are a big spender on high value products. A car that's imported. Um, Products may go up, X amount of percentage of a T-shirt that you like. But how many T-shirts do you need? So it kind of it puts it back on you to say, I have a limit to what I need to spend. So I am a little nervous about that because the import of products will decrease, which will give us limitations on what we can get.
Right.
Now, but
Consumerism of U.S. products are going to go through the roof.
U.S. products, and then it will take time, like you said, but it will start shifting. It'll take 15 years probably if it stays in place. But to shift the products that are essential for life, like toilet paper and things like that. I mean, you don't need toilet paper, but you want toilet paper.
Yeah.
Consumable products. Those things will start shifting back to the U.S.
Yeah.
And increase job production, manufacturing in the U.S. Because they're like, we can't sell a roll of toilet paper for $50, $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a bundle of 12. Like, it's gonna be ridiculous. People are gonna start going back to cloth. Like I'll freaking watch that shit.
I know, or maybe some newspaper or some shit like that.
Dude, I got a bidet in one of my.
Hell yeah! Just
shit.
hose my ass down.
I'm freaking using a bidet now. So we'll figure it out. But man, that income tax, and I like it because it could be through the year. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
right? Instead of every single 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you're dropping. I mean, I mean,
When
I
you,
probably pay $30,000 in federal taxes
yeah,
every year.
it's ridiculous. When you really look at taxes, and Trump kind of alluded to it a little bit on his on the podcast with Joe Rogan, but
It's a
when
good podcast. Oh,
it
great.
was a great episode, because again, I can deal with him without all the rhetoric. I wish sometimes he just shut the fuck up, and
Right.
that's just God honest truth. I wish he just shut the fuck up. But what I did like is that it gave him an opportunity to speak for 3 hours and it just talk without interruption, speak without any premise or pretense or anything like that or whatnot. But he said it he spent maybe 10 seconds on it. But if you're keen, you caught what he said. And I'm going to ask this question to the people who are listening to us. Who benefits the most from a federal income tax? And who wants a federal income tax the most? And when you look at it, it's not even it's never an American entity. Income taxes are a benefit of foreign entities because that cost is passed on to the American people by way of taxes instead of cast onto them by way of tariffs. We are enslaved by foreign entities by laws that are enacted right here on our American soil. And so again, if you eliminate that income tax, you're starting to mess with the powers that be, because that is one of the ways that not just our government and big government have us by the balls, but it's how foreign entities now
Yeah.
have us by the balls as well. And so
Well, they found a
it's in
loophole in the system.
yeah 1,000%. 1,000%.
So like you work, you make your money, and you ship it overseas,
yeah
and then we're gonna buy the bonds of
yeah
the U.S. Treasury
yeah
to the debt, and it's just gonna be a cycle,
yeah
which is kind of scary because if we default on those bonds, what happens? I don't know.
but here's the deal. If we default on those bonds, who is going to fuck with Donald Trump? You tell me one of these crazy fuckers in Afghaniland or wherever else. You tell me one of them that I don't care what they think about him. There's not one motherfucker on this planet running any kind of country military operation or the combination of the two that are
Yeah.
that are crazy enough to try to.
They have no idea what he would do.
They have no idea what. I mean, he don't know what he would do. The motherfucker probably woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, and bam, there's no more North Korea, just gone.
But he's not shown that force, so like I don't think he would. But that's the benefit of his
That's the
not
benefit.
knowing what he would do. But I don't think he would do.
No, I don't think
You know?
I don't think he would either. But I want someone, again, just like when it comes to the income tax and tariffs.
Yeah.
Why are you punishing American people for working their ass off for the money that they make by upwards of 38, 40 something fucking percent? You know, just destroying the fucking middle class, just to oblivion. Why would you punish them, but then you would reward foreign entities by lessening the amount of tariffs? No, fuck that. Give the rewards and the benefits to the American people, and everyone else outside of. Listen, I'm sorry. Shut that shit down in Ukraine. We can't even fix the fucking border. Shut that shit down over there in Ukraine. Stop sending that fucking money over there. I think you hold Israel accountable for their part and the role that they play as a bully in that area, because most people don't even know there was no Israeli state up until 1945. The land
Yeah.
that they are occupying was taken from the Palestinian people, and all of the Jews that were in Poland and in Austria-Hungary, they pushed them to that land that was taken from them. It's time to stop sending money over there to fucking Israel. It's time to put a stop to all of that shit. It's time to put a stop to Hamas, so those Palestinian people are not underneath that tyranny of rule and oppression anymore. Like, it's time for us to take care of our business here at home, period. And we shouldn't be funneling billions of dollars to foreign entities, even if they are allies. We shouldn't be funneling that. But then we're trying to figure out how we're going to find $100 million to rebuild the bridge in Baltimore. No, fuck that. Take that money that we're sending overseas and take care of your people here. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, there's a couple of like schools of thought, right? Like,
yeah.
When I think about the exit strategy of foreign intervention, where do you put that effort, and where do you put the money that you're going to remove from that, right? Because the whole idea is to stop it before it spreads.
Yeah.
Right. So in the concept of foreign interventions and foreign diplomatic, government intervention is to not allow certain ideologies to spread to different regions.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So if you pull out of all those things, the only solution that I can come up with, and I've thought about this, is just basically exactly what we need to do, but it's secure the border. It is surround the nation with the submarines and the ships.
Can I put a pin right there? Just don't forget what you're saying. Secure the border. I'm in 1,000% agreement with that. Now, this is where I start to get pissed off. I don't like the vernacular that is used by the right when they talk about securing the border, because it starts talking about illegal aliens and it just the nastiness of the speech. I agree. Secure the border, but stop talking about these people like they're some fucking leopards on some fucking island. These people are trying to get here. We're not talking about the cartel. That's a whole nother thing. We're talking about people who are literally risking their lives, crossing bodies of waters and mountains and terrains and valleys and all of this shit to try to get a better life for their people. And I just believe that we can secure the border while remaining humane in our heart and in our speech towards those people. I think it's ridiculous. Of course. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. I'm talking to someone who does legal immigration, processes for companies that need workers, because we have a shortage of workers that can fill certain, elements of our society, whether it be cooks or construction workers. So like, I've heard a lot about this actually recently, and it's impressive that there is a process, and I think that's the key.
Yeah,
the process has to be followed
and clearly lined out.
It can be more streamlined, but it also can. You have to stop the undocumented, to be politically correct, illegal crossings where you don't know who's coming in. Because
I agree.
When I'm talking about like stopping external intervention to out countries outside the U.S., if you allow it to spread, right? Socialism, communism, radicalism in any fashion, you're going to get the governments that have power to try to attack. And if the whole world is covered in this mentality of conquering other nations or destroying a certain segment of people, we're going to be a target. So when I say secure the border, and that in this the view of like, if we remove ourselves from the other countries and we don't intervene, you got to secure the border completely. And
shut it down.
You have to surround it, and then you have to have a dome. What is it? The dome guard or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to have a missile system to shoot down any missile, anything, any atomic bomb, anything that can come over our border. And it's more like isolationist.
Yeah.
And so that's the only solution that I see if we don't intervene. And so I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying there's not a good answer to it.
Yeah.
Other than don't. Okay. So we've been involved
and I'm about to say we're culprits in a lot of ways.
In coups, right? When it may have went in a way, but then we create a coup. because a particular group wants to fight against that. Um, those are the things that tend to bite us in the ass. It's like
Right.
maybe let that country figure out what they want to do through their own process.
Well, we got to get our ulterior motives out of it. It's got to be pure motive when we do what we do.
Yes, it can't be. It can't be. Oh, we think this is how they're going to go, and act before they actually show. So it's like it's kind of like a show and tell. You don't clap or boo, right, until you hear the joke. You got to hear the joke first.
Yeah.
You can't assume. Maybe Intel can tell you, hey, they're leaning in this direction, but it's not 100%. It's kind of like Trump. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you listen to the media, he's a fascist,
Mhm.
right? We're never going to have another president. Okay,
Mhm.
whatever. That's bullshit, right? Like, let things play out sometimes. That would be my policy. That would be my thing. It's like, let's assume that there are nations that have a dictator, right? But the people elect him. Fair or not fair. No clue if it works or doesn't. But there are people that don't understand what they're actually voting for in a democratic nation. And they will put someone in power that's a socialist or a communist, not truly understand what it means.
Sure.
But that was their choice. That was their choice to do that. If it was a fair election.
It's the beauty
right?
of the American system in and of itself. We can be the cause and the cure.
Yeah, we can't project like what is going to happen until it actually happens, and then we can react. You know, it's kind of
I agree.
It's the war games.
Yeah, I agree.
So quit trying to influence things because then it always makes a mess.
I wholeheartedly
every single time.
I wholeheartedly agree. And again, I wish both sides would hear that because listen, on the flip side, if the Democrats would have won, it would have been some shit too. Because I mean, even if the people would have spoken, if she would have won the popular and the electoral, it's still we would have the same conversation just on the other side of people projecting before it happens. Because here's the deal: everybody says, "Oh, Kamala had 4." First of all, let me tell you something that really bothers me, just as a black man, Joel.
Okay.
I hate that right-wing Republicans won't pronounce her name correct. That really pisses me off.
Interesting.
It really pisses me off. Even Donald Trump says the name wrong, and I think it's so disrespectful to the Vice President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Kamala is her name. It's not Kamala. It's not Kamala. It's not any of that bullshit. Yeah. And it really perturbs me.
Not that hard.
No, it's not that hard. But it's done on purpose. It's done to degrade her in her position, and I really dislike that. But again, she as the vice president, because people keep saying she had 4 years to prove what she was going to do. No, she fucking did not. Joe, she was not the fucking president. That's the bottom fucking line. She may have had influence, but she was not the president. Donald Trump had 4 years as president, and you can look at a track record as president, right, wrong, or indifferent, good or bad. But the argument that, she had 4 years to do something, I think is completely, it's bogus. I really don't, I don't like that at all. Now let's go back to this real quick though. Abortion. You had made a comment whenever I was talking about it earlier about a woman's body, an abortion. What were you said you want to kind of challenge on that. So I want to get back to it.
It was that you said you're a Democrat when it comes to social issues. And that was the challenge.
I got you.
I think you fall more on the libertarian side because a libertarian falls in that camp on the social issues, and they fall in certain camps, in the conservative side.
Yeah.
So it's that middle ground. So that is where I was kind of going with that.
I see.
You say you're a Democrat, and then I understand what you were saying, but I was like, what you're trying to say is like you're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm wholeheartedly in the middle. I was at Turning Point USA a couple of years ago at the Libertarian Convention. Like, I mean, but like you said, just for the sake of conversation, I just agree socially more with Democrats. I agree fiscally more with Republicans for the sake of a two-party argument.
Yeah. If you're defining like the positions, I think there's limitations on abortion. right? I think we both would agree to that.
I do agree with that. I think that it needs more attention than some votes. I think it really needs some real serious eyeballs from people that it directly impacts. Like, for instance, and I may get in trouble for saying this. First of all, again, I am a proponent of my body, my choice. I am a proponent of that woman having the ultimate or the final say so about what's going to happen. I don't think it should be impeded upon federally. I don't think it should be impeded upon state level either. What I don't agree with, and again, where's the line? Who comes up with what's too much, what's over the top, whatever. What I don't agree with is, again, and I wouldn't tell somebody they couldn't do it. I wouldn't put a law in that said they couldn't do it necessarily. But I don't agree with, just women getting abortions for the sake of getting an abortion because they don't want to have a baby. They're just recklessly, well, again, trying to be correct here, but just recklessly going out and getting pregnant and then aborting a child. I think that can start to skate across some ethical and moral boundaries for me. You know, killing a child once they've been born, and it being legal to be able to abort a baby that has been delivered, I think that is just asinine to the heels. But then on the flip side, I don't think a woman should be carrying a rapist baby to full term.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a balance, but I don't believe it should be illegal on a state level, to the point of punishment by law
Yeah.
for a woman for a woman to go get an abortion. Or even more so, there are states now, I think like Alabama, that will punish you if you leave the state to go get an abortion and come back. I think that's a little bit of an overstep on the law, in my opinion. How do you say it?
How do you say?
I can't remember.
It's funny. I just watched Forrest Gump, so
Oh, did you?
it's fresh in my mind. He told Jenny, he said,
Jenny,
you need to go back to Rainbow, Alabama.
Oh man, that's hilarious. No, I just wish, when it's all said and done, I'm a pretty inclusive
Me too.
individual.
Yeah.
Everything, I think a lot of my life is a reflection of the inclusive values that I have, down to the fact that my girlfriend's white. Like, and that's not, that mean that's
She
that
is?
white. Yeah, she from Coots, Texas, as white as they fucking get. She got her 23andMe results in. She thought she was gonna have some mix. I'm here to tell you that potato salad had raisins all through that motherfucker. It was as white as it.
She's amazing. I love her. I love her.
I love her. No,
One of my favorite people.
she's fucking incredible. But but again, I've served in multicultural staffs more than I have on staffs that are all white or all black, or I've been the only black person or one of the few inside of work environments and even in friend groups and stuff like that. And what I truly hope is that our country can get back to a point to where we can truly agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And not put other people down. The language that we use towards each other is sickening. And
Yeah.
Scripture says a house divided against itself can't stand. How can any two walk together unless they agree? And so, I hope we can. I hope that Donald Trump, in his plans of economic reform, which I think is extremely necessary for where we are. I think we're 20 years from being sold to the highest fucking bidder. And so I do think that from an economic standpoint, I'm excited about what he's going to do. I hope that he will turn his speech down just a little bit and have a little bit of a plan for the connecting of the country and on both sides. His last presidency was extremely polarizing. And that's
Yeah.
if I had a prayer that could be answered, it would be, let him
This,
please, just for the sake of, if you say you love this country, let it be more than just through your policy. Let it be through the speech that you speak, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth does speak. And we need a president that's not only going to benefit us by the policies that they try to push, but how they speak to the American people and how they're
yeah.
perceived by the American people. And I think
Yeah.
that's important.
100%.
Yeah.
No, that's a very normal thing to hope for and pray for, like that in any situation.
Yeah.
So if you take let's say the smallest denomination, right, which is a relationship, two people, and those two people agree or disagree on something. There's a level of understanding, right, that you have to have, which is like, hey, we don't agree on this. But it's okay because we're still a partner. Now scale that up to the nation. It's the same
Same
concept.
concept.
If you keep talking about the problem, if you keep talking about racism, like I think it was Joe Rogan's show, they actually looked at the uptick of of racial divide,
Hmm.
and it was right around the same time. It literally 2012. The
Hmm.
DIY, like diversion, the diversity and inclusion
Hmm.
like movement.
Hmm.
When you keep pointing out the problems, let's say me and you were in a gay relationship, okay?
Okay.
I'm the man in this relationship. Um, okay, so we have a problem. We have a problem,
Okay, honey.
but we can't keep harping on the problem.
No.
Like we have to like agree is disagree. So you can, what is it? The three things. You accept that you don't agree or agree. You have to accept.
Yeah.
You change it. You change it. One person or the other party changes their stance on it. Are you leaving?
Hmm.
And leaving it is, I'm never seeing you again. We're done.
Sure.
Well, we can't do that as a nation. We
No.
can't leave.
No.
Period. We can stop at the second one, but likely not.
Hmm.
Not everyone's going to change their mind. So you have to stay with the acceptance.
Hmm.
It's like I believe what I believe, and you
Hmm.
believe what you believe,
Hmm.
and let the best man win and shake it out.
Yeah.
And you do it with your,
Yeah.
but you still are cordial to each other. I I don't think I've ever, maybe one time in my life, had a disagreement with someone, but I was young. So I didn't know how to process that conversation. So I was just speaking, right? My thoughts and desires for what I wanted. But as I got older, it shifted. It shifted to more like listening instead of responding, right? Because you're never going to change anyone's mind. They need to see your actions. They need to see who you are.
Hmm.
They don't need to hear what you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just need to see the actions.
Hmm.
And so that was a hard lesson. I say hard lesson. It was a lesson I learned in my around my 30s, right? That I'm never going to convince someone in
Yeah.
any capacity. So what's the point? There's no point.
Yeah.
Just be you. Ask the questions. Okay, that's what you believe. Like, tell me more about it.
Hmm.
And emotionally, not to get like don't get connected to what they're saying
Yeah.
and how they're saying it.
Hmm.
Just let them be because that's who they're going to be.
Yeah.
They have to experience their own um, life,
Yeah.
and they may shift, but they're the only ones that can do it.
Yeah.
You can't change someone's mind in any way. You never. They have to change their own mind.
Yeah.
So if I say the right things, I'm going to get someone to change their mind. No, you'll never change their mind. They have to change their mind.
They have to change it. I tell our sales team this all the time. Uh, with what we do, it's a one encounter sell, just like a one
Yeah.
call close type of a thing. And and we're getting people to buy something 1,700, at the max 3 or 4 grand, worth of stuff. And I would go back and I would listen to some of their communication with the clients. I'd go back and listen to the ones where they did well, and I go back and listen to the ones where they didn't quite close for whatever the reason. They wanted to think about it. It was too expensive. They had to call their wife. The hurricane blew their roof off, and they got the butt. Whatever the fuck they come up with, because customers are liars and performers. Sorry, and I tell them that all the time. But I can always go back, and more often than not, Joel, the ones that they didn't sell were the ones where they talked the most.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively, where they did not ask enough questions and they talked too much. And I can go back, and whenever they spent more time and I'm not talking about these logical questions, because people buy on emotion based on some logical stuff. And there may be some people who buy more, who have a little more logic in their process, but it's still an emotional type of a thing when it's all said and done. And whenever you're talking to someone, you can't, you're trying to get them to buy something, putting them through a presentation and asking them, let's just say I was selling you stuff that would defrost your meat in 4 minutes. It's a machine that I built, and if you put the steak or whatever in there in 4 minutes, it will defrost it. And I'm trying to sell
Okay.
that to you. Okay.
Michael.
Right. And so when I'm talking to you, what most salespeople are going to do, which is to your point, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What most salespeople are going to do is say, "Hey, I'm glad you came to talk to us today. What brought you in today?" Well, of course we know what brought them into CarMax. They came to buy a fucking car. Whatever. That's a dumbass question. But either way, you're asking these surface level questions, and then you go into a 30-minute presentation where you're talking 90% of the time about the benefits and the bells and the whistles and all of the features and all of that stuff. Instead, the easier thing to do, because to your point, you can't change someone has to change themselves, is to go, listen, Joel, I'm glad you took the time to talk to me about this machine and everything. And I could take some time and show you how this works and maybe explain some things that separate us from the competition. But I don't even know anything about your life. Like, I don't even know if this is something that's conducive to what you've got going on. So, like, let me know how do you think this would bring value to your life? What does it look like to where this could even be a benefit to you? Shut the fuck up. And now I'm letting that person talk. And the more they're talking and the more deep, realistic questions that I'm asking them, the more they're selling themselves on why they need to make, because all a sale is changing from one thing to another. They're selling themselves on why they need to change, but it's because you took the time to ask questions and they felt like they were heard. It doesn't matter how trivial of a thing you're talking about, a car or life insurance. It doesn't matter. People want to be heard. People want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about their experiences. And if you ask the right questions and allow them to finally feel heard, you don't really have to worry about that person changing. They're going to make that decision themselves. And you just kind of almost like a what do you call it? A midwife. You just kind of guided them down that process. You were just there for them as they were coming to those conclusions on their own. And so again, to your point, if you want people to change, you got to shut up and listen to the real issues that are really plaguing that person at that time. Because if you show that you care, they'll open up, and more often than not, it'll lead to a positive conclusion with that individual when it's all said and done.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
I got one more thing I want to ask you, and then we can kind of wrap it up. Religion played a big part in this last election, as it typically does. I feel like as time goes on, it plays more and more of a role in that divide between right and left. But what do you think the role of religion is in politics? How much should it be considered? Because you've got, so for instance, there's two things right now that are hot button topics that are highly influenced by religion. The abortion issue, well, three: the abortion issue, the gay rights issue, and then the issue with Israel, because we believe that those are God's chosen people and God will bless those who bless Israel and all of that stuff. And that influences politically too. Like, what do you think its role is, and how much credence should we give to the topic of religion as it pertains to making laws that are going to govern our land and our people.
This one be controversial,
Yeah.
but I don't want any of it
Okay.
to influence. Let's imagine a state, which we know these states now. Iran, 1970s, taken over by a religious fraction of the nation.
Yeah.
You have photos from Iran. It looked like the United States in the 1970s.
The way they dressed,
the way they dressed, the cars,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Then a religious group comes in and takes over the government, and it imposes their views. And they've had the Arab Spring. So many people have died. It's just decimated the country because you can't impose your views on someone else.
Yeah.
I don't think Jesus would ever do that.
No.
He would never do that.
Jesus was more of a social justice warrior than anything else. If you really look at him.
when it comes down to it, let your moral compass guide you, but you're not. I don't believe in imposing any religious beliefs on a nation.
Yeah.
That is not, because if that were the case, the pendulum would swing. Let's imagine the United States. Like right now, I would say Christianity. Let's say in 50 years, it's Muslim.
Which is very possible.
Okay, so we have the pendulum swing. You set a precedent, and yet now you don't want that to be imposed.
You're going to crawfish on it.
So you can't allow it.
Can't allow it.
Cannot allow it, because if you do, then you set a precedent on it, and then when it shifts, you're going to have an insurrection. You're going to have conflict in ways that you never thought. And so when I look at the political view, I say the same thing on all of them.
Yeah.
Do not do things outside of the rules of the Constitution, because if you do and it becomes a precedent, it will be used against you. So when you do things, and when they do things in Congress and the Senate, and they push things through special ways that they can kind of get around a few things, it will slap you in the face.
Yeah.
So mandatory or an influence of a particular religion in our government shouldn't be. Your moral compass is your moral compass.
Yeah.
Fight for what you believe. But I think the representative of your state that has elected you should represent those people.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should go up there. And that's a tough one, though.
It is. I know, right?
Should you be yourself, or should you represent the people?
You got to represent the people. There's too many people. There's too many people who have been elected, and then once they got in, they started doing what they wanted to do. The whole point of you being a public servant is for you to push through the wishes and cater to the concerns of the constituents that you're fighting for.
So if you're elected as a conservative, then you should push conservative values.
1,000%.
If you're elected as a Democrat, then you push those.
But see, you can have conservative values.
You're running on those platforms. So when they elect you, that's what they're assuming that you're going to do.
Yeah. And see, my thing is, you can have conservative values without them being Christian centric or Islamic centric or Hindu, or based on Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever.
Exactly.
I'm with you. I believe that it does not have any place in government. I'm talking about down to praying at the National Prayer Breakfast. I mean, shut all of it down. Shut it all down. I don't think you should be praying in schools, because again, if you don't want it to be for all, then you need to shut it down for everybody. It's got to be for everybody. If the Christian can pray in school, the Muslim should be able to pray out publicly out loud in school.
I don't think something should be mandated, but I don't think something should be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Christian wants to pray at school, let him pray at school. If
the
Muslim wants to pray at school, let him pray at school.
But that's my point. But if you're going to, there's only one or two ways that you can do it. You either have to let it be free for everybody,
Yeah.
or you have to shut it down for everybody. It can't be good for some or whatever. And so my thing is, what right now, the way that these people are talking, they only want it to pertain to them as it pertains to being a Christian, and that's it. And I think that's a very, I think
Yeah.
that's a bad mistake. Listen,
I think
so much so Donald Trump made a Bible. I just want to put that out there.
if you get to the root of Christianity, I've been in the Christian faith forever, my
Yeah,
whole life. But you'll find a whole segment of people that are like, let them practice what they want to practice.
1000%.
I think there's a lot more on the Christian side. It's not the conquer, religion.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, spread the word. And we went through the times during the Dark Ages. I know where the Christians were doing the evil things. I think that religion has grown from that time
I guess when
period.
you dominate everybody and don't have to have any resistance anymore, shit.
Yeah, it's true. I would go back and just say exactly what you said and what I said. It's like,
Yeah,
just make it free for everyone
yeah.
to do what they should and don't mandate something from a government standpoint. It should be mandated, but it shouldn't be stopped.
Do you think the church, whether a lot of the black churches tend to be more on the liberal side, and again, there's a reason for that. Whenever they could
Did
not,
you see the numbers this election?
I watched them. I looked at them.
The numbers? Okay.
Yeah,
It's a big shift.
yeah. It's a big shift. It's a big shift. When you look at the black church, typically they're more on the liberal side as far as politics are concerned. Even the conservative denominations within black church culture still tend to, because
Yeah.
because of the social aspects of things. Back in the day, before we could vote, this is this is after slavery, but during Jim Crow, before we could vote, before segregation and all of that stuff, the black pulpit was one of the only places that they could come and discuss these social issues and get their voices heard and all of that stuff, and whatnot. And then of course you've got the Republican side, the conservative side that does what they do. I think we're at the point in our nation, though. I really believe in the separation of church and state, and I think there should be repercussions for pastors and leadership of any type of church, any type of denomination, to be up there spitting political rhetoric and influencing voting decisions. Obviously, if you're in the same building as somebody, going to church with somebody over and over again for years and years, you're probably going to share some of the same beliefs and some of the same principles and that type of thing. But I think they've teetered that line and crossed it way too much, and I think it really needs to be put to a stop. I think there needs to be some penalty that comes from them doing that, whether it be some calling their tax exempt statuses out on the carpet, whatever. I just feel like there's rewards for being a nonprofit, especially a religious nonprofit, and I think they should have to abide by those things in order to continue to operate. And that goes with speaking not speaking politically to the point to where they blatantly hand out pamphlets in church telling you, they don't put the name out, but you know who the fuck they're telling you to vote for when it's all said and done. Yeah. And
That's a weird,
I know,
because
right?
it's hard to kind of define when that line's crossed,
Yeah.
and then who's going to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have implementation of it. So now you have another government entity that is there to monitor.
I don't think that they should be in people's churches monitoring, but if you're putting it out on social media, which most churches
I
are,
think if it pops up,
1000%,
if it pops up,
I think you should be held accountable to whatever you put out there for the public to see.
yeah, because I've seen some pastors that I know personally,
Yeah.
during this process of elections, they come out on Instagram and things like that. And these are Pentecostal, right? But they came through the line just saying, hey, just vote with your conscience, vote with your heart, vote with your morals and values.
Right.
That's okay to say.
I think that's fine too. But then you've got idiots like Donnie Swaggart down there in Baton Rouge, who literally has called out the entire black church, said that the black church is in sin for supporting that woman, which I think is disrespectful to not even call her by her fucking name either. But by supporting that woman, and just the hypocrisy of that, because your dad's fucking Jimmy Swaggart. He was he was paying people $5,000 to shit on his chest in the 80s. And you're gonna get up there. You hear what I'm fucking saying? And you're gonna get up there and tell people that they're morally culpable for voting for that woman, Kamala. But again, your dad was using church funds to get shitted on. I just think that shit's great. And listen, I wish I was alive back then, because if he wanted to pay somebody $5,000 to shit on his chest, he would have had to look no further. I'd have been available morning, noon, and night. I would have shit on Jimmy Swaggart more than anybody's ever been shitted on in their lives.
Oh my God. Would there be a debate though? A debate there, like, or toilet paper?
Listen. I don't care how wherever he wanted me to shit. It could have been at
and you just wipe with 100,
and you just wipe with 100. I would have gave Jimmy Swaggart the best Cleveland steamer he'd ever had in his life, and that's
man. What a high to end on. Shitting on Jimmy Swaggart.
Shitting on Jimmy. I have sinned. Oh. Did you see that?
That little clip.
Well, on when it was actually happening back then. I didn't know if y'all had TV in the house back then or not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's you should go. You should really go look at his story. It's quite interesting. It's really interesting. Yep.
Man, I love you so much.
Love you too, man.
My boy Brandon. I'm Joel. We didn't introduce ourselves again.
I know, right? God damn it. I know. It's just amateur hour over here all day long.
Well, we're back.
We're back.
Episode 14.
We're back. The people need to hear us speak, Joel.
I know.
I feel like there are heavenly nuggets that
I like this episode. It was very one topic. I like it. Okay.
I'm with it.
We're back. All right. Love you, buddy.
I love you too, my man. Y'all take care, guys.